Officer Marcus Webb had been with the Huntington Beach Police Department for 11 months when he walked into a situation that would destroy his career and cost the city $14.7 million. He was 26 years old, fresh out of the academy, and apparently convinced that his training made him capable of reading any situation instantly. One Saturday afternoon at Huntington City Beach, he responded to a frantic 911 call about a possible drowning and assault. The possible drowning was real. A 6-year-old girl swept into a riptide? The assault was fiction. A panicked witness who saw a black man in the water and assumed violence. What Webb did next, ignoring multiple witnesses, dismissing the victim's identification, and deploying his taser on a Navy SEAL, actively saving a child's life, would become proof that rookie judgment mixed with racial assumptions creates catastrophic consequences. Before we continue, where are you watching from? If this is your first time here, please hit that subscribe button. Stories like these need to be shared, and your support helps us bring more truth to light. Huntington City Beach stretches along 2 miles of Southern California coastline in Orange County. On summer weekends, it transforms into a packed destination. Families with beach chairs and umbrellas, surfers waiting for waves, volleyball games, the iconic pier extending 1,150 feet into the Pacific. The beach is divided into sections. The central area near the pier attracts tourists and families. The northern sections draw locals and serious swimmers. Lifeguard towers are positioned every 500 yards, staffed with professionals trained in ocean rescue and emergency response. It was 3:47 p.m. on a Saturday in late June. Temperature, 78 degrees. Perfect beach weather. The ocean was choppy. A mild riptide warning had been posted that morning. Nothing severe enough to close the beach, but enough that lifeguards were watching the water carefully. The beach was crowded but not packed. Families clustered near the lifeguard towers. Teenagers played frisbee. Children built sandcastles. The kind of Saturday afternoon where nothing dramatic typically happens. Lieutenant Commander Darius Mitchell had been a Navy SEAL for 18 years. 18 years of operations that required split-second decisions under extreme pressure. He'd completed 6 combat deployments to Afghanistan and Iraq, served as a dive supervisor on underwater demolition teams, trained hundreds of junior SEALs in combat swimming and rescue techniques, and received the Bronze Star for valor during a 2019 hostage rescue operation in Syria. His specialty was maritime operations, underwater navigation, combat diving, ocean rescue in conditions most people couldn't survive. He'd pulled wounded soldiers from rivers under enemy fire, rescued pilots from crashed helicopters in stormy seas, and conducted reconnaissance missions in water so cold it would kill an untrained swimmer in minutes. At 41 years old, Darius Mitchell was exactly where 2 decades of discipline and sacrifice had taken him. Respected, trusted, and assigned to Naval Special Warfare Command in Coronado as a senior instructor. He'd graduated from the Naval Academy in Annapolis in 2006, commissioned as an officer, and immediately entered BUD/S training, Basic Underwater Demolition SEAL Training, the most physically and mentally demanding military program in the world. Only 25% of candidates complete it. Mitchell not only completed it, he graduated top of his class. He'd since completed advanced training in tactical medicine, explosives, languages, intelligence, every skill the Navy could teach him. He was married with 3 children, ages 14, 11, and 8. A son in high school, twin daughters in middle school. He lived in Huntington Beach, 20 minutes from the base, close enough to his job that he could be home for dinner most nights when he wasn't deployed. On weekends, he took his family to the beach they'd lived near for 9 years. They knew every lifeguard tower, every food stand, every good spot to set up their chairs. That Saturday afternoon, Mitchell had taken his daughters to the beach while his wife stayed home with their son, who had a soccer tournament. The girls wanted to swim. Mitchell, a man whose job involved underwater operations in hostile environments, was perfectly comfortable letting them play in the shallows while he sat nearby reading. He wore board shorts and a gray Navy t-shirt. No uniform, no obvious identification. Just a fit black man in his 40s watching his kids. At 3:42 p.m., his daughters were waist-deep in the water about 30 feet from shore, jumping over small waves and laughing. Mitchell was reading a book, periodically looking up to check on them. He'd been a SEAL long enough that situational awareness was second nature. He noticed the riptide current shifting. He noticed the lifeguard scanning the water with binoculars. He noticed the family to his left packing up to leave. And then he noticed something else. 50 yards down the beach, a small figure, a child, was being pulled rapidly away from shore. The child's arms were flailing. An adult woman on the beach was screaming, pointing at the water. The nearest lifeguard was sprinting toward his tower to grab rescue equipment. Mitchell was already moving. He dropped his book, kicked off his sandals, and ran toward the water. His training took over instantly. Assessed the situation. Child in distress, riptide pulling her out, lifeguard response time 45 to 60 seconds minimum. Victim probably has 90 seconds before exhaustion causes submersion. Decision made: enter the water immediately. Mitchell dove into the surf and started swimming with powerful, controlled strokes. He'd trained for ocean rescues in conditions far worse than this. The riptide was strong but manageable. He covered the distance in under 30 seconds. The child, a 6-year-old girl later identified as Emma Caldwell, was struggling, coughing, swallowing water. Mitchell reached her, grabbed her under the arms, and immediately began assessing. Conscious, breathing labored, panicked but responsive. Swim parallel to shore to escape the riptide current. Mitchell told her, "I've got you. You're safe." Emma was too panicked to respond. She grabbed at Mitchell's arms, fighting him instinctively. This is common in drowning victims. They fight their rescuers. Mitchell's training covered this. He secured her in a cross-chest carry, one arm across her torso, keeping her head above water while using his other arm and legs to swim. But to someone on shore watching through panicked eyes, it looked different. Karen Simmons, a 52-year-old tourist from Arizona, saw a large black man in the water with a small white child. The child was flailing. The man was holding her. Karen Simmons's brain, primed by decades of media narratives about who poses danger and who needs protection, made a terrible assumption. She pulled out her phone and called 911. "There's a man attacking a child in the water. He's holding her. She's fighting him. Please send help." Officer Marcus Webb had been with the Huntington Beach Police Department for 11 months. This was his first summer on beach patrol, his first season responding to calls at Huntington City Beach. He'd graduated from the police academy the previous July, enthusiastic, eager, and convinced that his training prepared him for anything. But Marcus Webb had a problem. In 11 months, he'd already compiled a record that should have raised concerns. 4 complaints. 4 complaints in less than a year. 3 involved allegations of excessive force or unnecessary escalation with black residents. A traffic stop in February, where Webb drew his weapon on a driver reaching for his registration. A noise complaint in April where Webb entered a home without consent after a black family was accused of playing music too loud. A shoplifting call in May where Webb tackled a black teenager who turned out to be the store owner's son carrying merchandise to his car. Each complaint was reviewed and dismissed. Insufficient evidence. Conflicting witness statements. No video. Webb received verbal counseling and returned to duty. The pattern was forming. Marcus Webb saw threats where none existed, particularly when the suspect was black. But the department treated each incident in isolation, never connecting the dots, never recognizing that 4 complaints in 11 months from a rookie officer was a flashing red warning sign. That Saturday afternoon, Webb was on patrol near the pier when the 911 call came through. Possible assault in progress. Huntington City Beach, near Tower 15. Caller reports an adult male attacking a child in the water. Victim is a minor, approximately 6 years old. Webb's mind immediately filled in a narrative. Child abduction, assault, emergency. He activated his lights and sirens and drove toward Tower 15, arriving within 90 seconds. He jumped out of his patrol car and ran toward the beach. Karen Simmons, the caller, was standing on the sand pointing at the water and screaming, "There! That man has that little girl." Webb scanned the water. He saw exactly what Karen Simmons had described. A large black man in the water, holding a small white child. The child appeared to be struggling. Webb didn't wait to assess further. He didn't look for a lifeguard. He didn't ask witnesses what they'd seen. He saw a black man and a white child, and his training, shallow, incomplete, filtered through racial bias, told him this was an assault. He ran toward the water's edge, one hand on his taser. Do you think rookie officers should be allowed on solo patrol before completing at least one full year of supervised field training? Drop your answer below. Mitchell was 20 feet from shore, still swimming parallel to escape the riptide, when he heard shouting from the beach. He couldn't make out the words over the sound of the waves, but he could see people gathering, pointing at him. He assumed they were concerned about the child. He kept swimming. Emma had stopped fighting. She was exhausted, clinging to Mitchell's arm, coughing up seawater but breathing. Mitchell adjusted his grip and started swimming directly toward shore. 10 more seconds and he'd be in shallow water where he could stand. The lifeguard was running toward them with a rescue buoy, and then he saw the police officer. Marcus Webb was standing at the water's edge, hand on his taser, shouting. "Stop right there!" Mitchell continued swimming. He was focused on getting Emma to safety, not on whatever the officer was saying. Webb took 2 steps into the water, his voice rising. "I said stop! Put the child down!" Mitchell's feet touched sand. He stood up, still holding Emma securely. The water was waist deep. He started walking toward shore. Webb drew his taser and aimed it. "Drop her now, or I will use force." Mitchell's training kicked in again. He assessed the situation instantly. Officer with a weapon drawn, assuming threat, probably responding to a bad 911 call. The priority was still the child's safety. Mitchell kept walking toward shore, keeping his voice calm and controlled. "Officer, I'm bringing this child to shore. She was drowning. This is a rescue." Webb's face hardened. "I don't care what you think you're doing. Hands behind your back now." The lifeguard, Travis Chen, a 6-year veteran, arrived at the water's edge. "Officer, stand down. That man just saved her life." Webb ignored him. He kept the taser trained on Mitchell. "Step away from the child immediately." Mitchell was now in knee-deep water, close enough to shore that he could hand Emma to her mother, who was running toward them crying. But Webb was blocking his path, taser raised. Mitchell stopped walking. He looked directly at Webb. "Officer, my name is Lieutenant Commander Darius Mitchell. I'm a Navy SEAL stationed at Coronado. I witnessed this child being pulled into a riptide. I performed a water rescue. This child is safe because of my training. I need to get her to shore so the lifeguard can assess her condition. Please lower your weapon and let me finish this rescue." Webb's finger moved to the trigger. "I don't care if you're the president. Hands behind your back or you're getting tased." This is where assumptions become accusations. Officer Webb had responded to a 911 call about an assault. When he arrived, he saw a black man holding a white child in the water. His mind locked onto that image and refused to update, even when a lifeguard, a professional trained in beach safety, told him it was a rescue. Even when multiple witnesses started shouting that the man had saved the girl. Even when the man himself identified as a Navy SEAL and explained the situation calmly and clearly. Webb's bias was so complete, it overrode evidence, professional testimony, and logic. He'd decided this was an assault, and no amount of reality would change his mind. Mitchell made a decision. He couldn't hand Emma to her mother with a taser pointed at him. He couldn't risk Webb firing and hitting the child. So he did the only thing that made tactical sense. He turned his body to shield Emma and started walking toward her mother, who was now just feet away. "Please take your daughter," Mitchell said to Emma's mother, extending the child toward her. The moment his arms extended, Marcus Webb fired his taser. 50,000 volts struck Mitchell in the back. The barbs penetrated his t-shirt and lodged in his skin. His muscles contracted violently, but Mitchell's SEAL training had prepared him for pain beyond what most people can imagine. He'd been tased in training. He'd been exposed to tear gas, subjected to controlled drowning, trained to operate under conditions designed to break the human body. He didn't drop the child. His muscles locked, his jaw clenched, and his vision blurred, but his arms stayed rigid, holding Emma above the water. He took 3 staggering steps forward, every movement excruciating, and placed Emma directly into her mother's arms. Then he collapsed face first into the shallow water. The beach erupted in chaos. Emma's mother was screaming, clutching her daughter. The lifeguard was shouting at Webb. Witnesses were pulling out phones, recording. Someone yelled, "Call an ambulance." Webb stood frozen, taser still in his hand, staring at Mitchell's body in the water. Should officers face criminal charges for deploying tasers on individuals actively rescuing children? Let me know what you think. 2 other lifeguards reached Mitchell within seconds. They pulled him out of the water and onto the sand. He was conscious but disoriented, muscles still twitching from the electrical current. The taser barbs were embedded in his back. One of the lifeguards carefully removed them, while another checked his vital signs. Mitchell's vision cleared. He looked around, saw Emma safe in her mother's arms, and allowed himself to breathe. Mission accomplished, child safe. Then he looked at Officer Webb, who was standing 5 feet away, taser lowered but still gripping it like he might need to use it again. Mitchell's voice was hoarse but controlled. "Officer, I'm going to reach into my pocket slowly and show you my military ID. I'm not resisting. I'm complying. Please don't shoot me." Webb said nothing. Mitchell reached into his board shorts pocket and pulled out a waterproof pouch. Inside was his military ID, Lieutenant Commander Darius Mitchell, U.S. Navy, Naval Special Warfare Command. He held it up. Webb took the ID, examined it, and his face went pale. Sergeant Linda Vasquez arrived 60 seconds later. She was a 19-year veteran, senior patrol supervisor for the beach unit, and she took one look at the scene and immediately understood that something had gone catastrophically wrong. "What happened?" she demanded. Webb tried to explain. "I responded to a call about an assault. The caller said a man was attacking a child in the water. When I arrived, he had the child. He wouldn't release her. I gave him multiple commands, and he refused to comply. I deployed my taser to secure the victim." Vasquez turned to Travis Chen, the lifeguard. "What actually happened?" Chen's voice was sharp with anger. "That man, Lieutenant Commander Mitchell, performed a textbook ocean rescue. A 6-year-old girl got caught in a riptide. He entered the water immediately, reached her before she went under, and brought her safely to shore. He's a Navy SEAL. He just saved that child's life, and your officer tased him for it." Vasquez looked at Mitchell, who was sitting up now, being examined by paramedics. Then she looked at Webb. "You tased a Navy SEAL performing a water rescue?" Webb's voice was weak. I don't care what you thought. Did you verify the situation? Did you ask the lifeguard? Did you listen to witnesses? There was a 911 call. A 911 call from someone who panicked. Did you confirm it?" Webb had no answer. Vasquez held out her hand. "Badge? Radio. You're off duty effective immediately. Report to the station for administrative review." Webb's hands shook as he removed his badge and clipped his radio. He looked at Mitchell, opened his mouth as if to say something, then closed it. There was nothing he could say. Vasquez walked over to Mitchell. "Sir, I'm Sergeant Vasquez. On behalf of the Huntington Beach Police Department, I apologize. This should never have happened." Mitchell nodded but said nothing. He was building his case. Every word mattered. "Lieutenant Commander, I need to ask. Do you require medical attention?" Mitchell gestured to the paramedics. "They're checking me now. Taser barbs removed. Minor burns, muscle soreness. I'll be fine." Vasquez handed him her card. "Here's my direct number. You'll want to contact our Professional Standards Division. You may also want to contact an attorney." Mitchell took the card. He already knew he'd be contacting an attorney. This wasn't just about him. This was about every black person who'd been assumed to be a threat. Every parent who had to worry. Their child might see them brutalized by police. Every moment of trauma that could have been avoided if one officer had taken 30 seconds to assess a situation before drawing a weapon. Emma's mother, Rachel Caldwell, approached Mitchell with her daughter. Emma was wrapped in a towel, still shaken but breathing normally. Rachel was crying. "Thank you. You saved her life." "I don't know how to thank you." Mitchell managed a small smile. "Make sure she takes swimming lessons." Rachel looked at Officer Webb, then back at Mitchell. "I saw everything. I'll testify. Everyone here will testify." Mitchell nodded. I appreciate that. Should departments terminate officers who use force based on racial assumptions rather than evidence? Drop your answer below. Within 6 hours, the videos went viral. Multiple witnesses had recorded the incident from different angles. The footage showed everything. Mitchell swimming to Emma, pulling her from the water, carrying her to shore, identifying himself clearly as a Navy SEAL, placing Emma safely in her mother's arms, and then collapsing after being tased. Navy SEAL. Tased by cop while rescuing drowning child. Black Navy. Hero. Tased after saving. White child from drowning. Rookie officer mistakes. Heroic rescue for assault. Deploys taser on Navy SEAL. The outrage was immediate and intense. The Navy issued a statement condemning the incident and offering full support to Lieutenant Commander Mitchell. The NAACP called for a federal investigation. Veterans organizations demanded accountability. Civil rights groups called it proof that black heroism is criminalized when filtered through racial bias. Officer Marcus Webb was placed on administrative leave within hours. The Huntington Beach Police Department launched an internal investigation. Webb's union initially issued a statement defending his actions. Officer Webb responded to a 911 call and followed department protocol for securing a potential threat, but withdrew it 24 hours later after reviewing the videos and witness statements. The 911 caller, Karen Simmons, gave a brief interview to local news. I thought I saw a man attacking a child. I was wrong. I should have waited to see what was actually happening before I called. But she never apologized directly to Mitchell. Dylan Kershaw was fired within 48 hours of the incident for, wait, wrong story. Webb's personnel file was reviewed. 4 complaints in 11 months. 3 involving allegations of excessive force or racial bias. None resulted in meaningful discipline. The pattern was documented. The department had missed every warning sign. Emma Caldwell was treated at Huntington Beach Hospital and released the same day. She had swallowed water and suffered minor trauma, but was medically stable. Doctors confirmed that without Mitchell's immediate intervention, she likely would have drowned. Her mother, Rachel, spoke to media outside the hospital. Darius Mitchell is a hero. He risked his life to save my daughter, and he was tased for it. If that doesn't prove we have a problem with how police see black men, I don't know what does. Civil rights attorneys contacted Mitchell within 24 hours. The case was clear. The evidence was overwhelming. The damages were substantial, not just physical injury, but the psychological trauma of being tased in front of his daughters, who'd watched from the beach. The message sent to every black person: even saving a child's life isn't enough to protect you from assumptions. The lawsuit named Officer Marcus Webb, Sergeant Linda Vasquez for failure to adequately supervise a rookie officer with multiple complaints, the Huntington Beach Police Department for failure to train and failure to address Webb's pattern of complaints, and the city of Huntington Beach. The claims were extensive: excessive use of force without justification, unlawful detention and arrest, violation of Fourth Amendment rights against unreasonable seizure, violation of 14th Amendment rights to equal protection, racial profiling and discrimination, intentional infliction of emotional distress, assault and battery, negligent hiring, training, and supervision of Officer Webb despite documented complaints. The complaint included Webb's complete record: 4 complaints in 11 months, all involving black civilians, all dismissed with minimal investigation. The pattern was clear. The documentation was extensive. The department's failure to act was indefensible. The city's attorneys reviewed the evidence and reached the same conclusion: indefensible. Videos from 6 different witnesses, testimony from lifeguards, trained professionals who confirmed it was a rescue. Emma Caldwell's mother confirming Mitchell saved her daughter's life. Mitchell's Navy credentials, his 18-year record of heroism and service, his calm, controlled behavior, even while being tased. There was no defense. The city settled 14 months later. $14.7 million paid to Lieutenant Commander Darius Mitchell. The settlement included mandatory reforms. All rookie officers must complete 18 months of supervised field training before solo patrol. All officers must verify situations with on-scene professionals, lifeguards, fire personnel, medical staff, before deploying force. Any officer with 3 or more complaints involving racial bias must be removed from patrol pending comprehensive review, and independent oversight board with subpoena power to review all use of force incidents. Officer Marcus Webb was terminated 6 weeks after the incident. The termination letter was final. Officer Webb deployed a taser against an unarmed individual actively rescuing a child from drowning. Despite clear identification from the victim, confirmation from a lifeguard, and visible evidence of a rescue in progress, Officer Webb proceeded with force. This incident, combined with a pattern of 4 complaints in 11 months involving racial bias and excessive force, demonstrates Officer Webb is unfit for law enforcement. His employment is terminated immediately. Webb's name was entered into the National Decertification Index. His law enforcement career ended at 26 years old. His union reviewed the case and declined to appeal. The evidence was too clear. Webb released a brief statement. "I made a terrible mistake. I reacted based on fear and assumption instead of facts. I'm sorry. But apologies don't undo the trauma of being tased in front of your children while saving someone's life." Lieutenant Commander Darius Mitchell testified before the California Assembly Committee on Public Safety. His testimony was powerful and clear. "I'm a Navy SEAL with 18 years of service. I've conducted combat operations in hostile environments. I've saved lives under enemy fire. I've been awarded the Bronze Star for valor." He paused. "I was at the beach with my daughters, watching them play in the water, when I saw a child drowning. My training took over. I entered the water, reached the child before she went under, and brought her safely to shore. And I was tased for it." Another pause. "I identified myself. I explained what I was doing. A lifeguard confirmed it. Witnesses confirmed it. None of it mattered. Officer Webb saw a black man with a white child and assumed assault. His bias overrode evidence, overrode professional testimony, overrode logic. His voice strengthened. 4 complaints in 11 months. 4. That's not bad luck. That's a pattern. A pattern the department ignored until it targeted someone with the resources to fight back. He looked directly at the committee. $14.7 million is accountability. My career continuing is justice. But if I, a Navy SEAL with every credential and advantage, can be tased while saving a child's life, what happens to black men without badges, without resources, without cameras recording?" The room was silent. Should officers with 3 or more racial bias complaints face automatic removal from patrol duty? Let me know in the comments. This wasn't just about one rookie officer with poor judgment. This was about a system that let Marcus Webb compile 4 complaints in 11 months and never connected the pattern. A system that treated each incident in isolation, dismissing complaints without meaningful investigation, sending officers to cursory training that changed nothing. Webb's record told the story his supervisors chose not to read. February. Weapon drawn on a driver during a traffic stop for reaching toward his registration. April. Unauthorized entry into a home over a noise complaint. May. Violent takedown of a teenager who turned out to be the store owner's son. And finally, June. Taser deployed on a Navy SEAL saving a child. 4 escalating incidents. 4 opportunities to intervene. 4 moments where someone with authority could have said, "This officer has a problem. This pattern is dangerous. This needs to stop." But nobody did. Marcus Webb's career is over. That's consequence. The city paid $14.7 million. That's accountability. The department implemented reforms. That's progress. But money and reforms don't erase the image of a Navy SEAL being tased in front of his daughters while performing a heroic rescue. They don't restore the moment when Emma Caldwell's mother realized the man who saved her daughter was being treated like a criminal. They don't undo the message sent to every black person watching. Your heroism, your credentials, your service, none of it protects you from bias. The real question is, what changes now? Do departments finally remove officers after 3 complaints instead of waiting for the 4th, the 8th, the 11th? Do we finally acknowledge that a pattern of seeing black people as threats, regardless of context, is grounds for termination? Do we finally recognize that waiting until someone with a Navy SEAL's resources fights back means countless others suffered without justice? Because if we don't fix the systems that kept Marcus Webb on patrol despite 4 complaints in less than a year, If we don't address the culture that taught him to see assault instead of rescue, then we're just waiting for the next rookie officer, the next black hero, the next child who might not be as lucky as Emma Caldwell. Comment if you believe this should be law. Any officer who deploys force against an individual performing an emergency rescue faces immediate termination and criminal prosecution for reckless endangerment. And if you think these stories need to be told, if you believe accountability starts with awareness and change starts with pressure, then hit that subscribe button. We're not stopping. We're going to keep exposing these patterns. We're going to keep demanding better. We're going to keep fighting for the Navy SEALs, the coffee drinkers, the ordinary heroes who deserve to exist without being criminalized. This isn't just about one rookie cop or one Navy SEAL. It's about all of us and the world we choose to accept, where a black man saving a drowning child is seen as a threat until proven otherwise, or where we finally recognize that courage and heroism don't change color.